Millionaire's son was in a wheelchair, but he drank a yellow liquid. A homeless man gave him, and Dr. Thomas Wilson was looking out his office window at the street activity while thinking about the medical test results he had received that morning. His son, Matthew, only 10 years old, had been admitted for 2 weeks to the best private hospital in New York City, and the results remained discouraging. That's when he saw something that caught his attention. A man in ragged clothes was offering a yellow liquid in a plastic bottle to his son, who was in a wheelchair in the hospital garden. The boy was drinking it slowly, as if it were the most precious thing in the world. "What is happening over there?" murmured Thomas, adjusting his glasses to see better. He quickly went down to the garden, his heart racing. When he got close, he heard the soft voice of the homeless man talking to Matthew. "This passion fruit juice is special, my boy. My grandmother used to say it brought strength to those who needed it most." "Daddy?" Matthew turned his face, smiling for the first time in weeks. "Mr. James gave me a delicious juice." Thomas felt a mix of anger and protectiveness. How had that dirty man gotten so close to his son? He was about to call security when he noticed something different. Matthew seemed alive. His eyes were shining in a way he hadn't seen since the accident. "Who are you?" asked Thomas, trying to stay calm. James stood up slowly, his worn-out clothes contrasting with the businessman's impeccable suit. "Sorry to bother you, Doctor. I'm James Miller. I help with the cleaning here at the hospital. Your son seemed sad, so I offered him a bit of my juice." Thomas looked at the plastic bottle in the man's calloused hands. The yellow liquid had a sweet, natural scent. "Matthew, let's go back to the room," said Thomas, still suspicious. "But Dad, Mr. James was telling me about the little birds he sees every day. He said they do their exercises in the morning, flying from branch to branch." James smiled kindly. "It's true, Doctor. I've been observing nature for a long time. I've learned that movement is life, even when it seems impossible." There was something in that man's voice that intrigued Thomas. It wasn't the typical speech of a homeless person. There was knowledge, education behind the simple words. "Daddy, can I have a little bit more?" asked Matthew, reaching his hand out for the bottle. Thomas hesitated. All the doctors had said Matthew's condition was irreversible. The spinal cord injury caused by the traffic accident 3 months ago had shattered any hope of recovery. But there was his son, asking for something for the first time since he woke up in the hospital. "Just a small sip," agreed Thomas, watching closely. Matthew drank the juice with pleasure, closing his eyes to savor it. "It's a little tart, but tasty," the boy commented. "You know, Dad, when I drink it, I feel a strange tingling in my legs." Thomas froze. The doctors had explained that any sensation in his legs was impossible due to the location of the injury. "Matthew, what do you mean by tingling?" "I can't really explain it. It's like something is waking up down there." James watched the conversation in silence, but Thomas noticed a different glint in his eyes. It was as if he knew something he wasn't saying. "Mr. James," Thomas called out, "do you know about medicine?" The man hesitated for a moment. "A little bit, Doctor. Life teaches many things to those who pay attention." Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and especially to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. That night, Thomas couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the conversation with James, and especially about the joy he had seen on Matthew's face. For months his son had been living apathetically, refusing to do physical therapy or any activity. The next day he arrived at the hospital early and found James sweeping the hallway. "Good morning, Mr. James." "Good morning, Dr. Wilson." "May I speak with you?" James stopped sweeping and looked directly at Thomas. "Of course, Doctor." "Yesterday you said you understand a little bit about medicine. Can you explain that better?" James took a deep breath, as if carrying a weight on his shoulders. "Doctor, I used to be a physical therapist. I worked for 15 years at Memorial Hospital here in New York City." Thomas's eyes widened. "A physical therapist? What happened?" "Life happened, Doctor. I lost my license 5 years ago, a complicated situation with a patient. A mistake that wasn't mine, but I ended up being held responsible." "And why didn't you tell me this yesterday?" Who would believe a homeless man saying he was once a healthcare professional? Thomas studied James's face. There was honesty there, but also pain. Do you still remember the techniques? Doctor, you never forget that. It's like riding a bicycle. James, may I ask you something? What did you see in my son yesterday? James looked around, making sure they were alone. Doctor, with all due respect, I read the boy's chart when no one was looking. His injury is in the L2, L3 region, right? Thomas nodded, surprised by James's technical knowledge. That region, well, it's not a definitive sentence like many doctors like to say. I've seen cases like this before. What do you mean? That with the right stimulation, some nerve fibers can be reactivated. It's not a miracle, Doctor. It's science. Thomas felt his heart speed up. And the passion fruit juice? James smiled for the first time. That's just to give hope. Passion fruit has vitamin C and other good nutrients, but the real medicine is hope combined with proper exercise. Exercise? But the doctors said... They said he'll never walk again, right? Doctor, I worked with a girl in the same condition as your son. It took 2 years, but she started walking again. Thomas looked at James with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, Doctor. You should trust science, but you should also trust your son. He felt a tingling sensation yesterday. That's a sign. What do you suggest? That you let me work with him. I won't charge anything. I just want to see that boy smile again. Thomas ran his hand through his hair, thoughtful. I need to speak with my wife first. Of course, Doctor, but don't take too long. Time is important in cases like this. When Thomas arrived home that night, he found his wife Jennifer crying in the kitchen. For 3 months she had been like this, alternating between tears and silence. Jennifer, we need to talk. If it's about changing doctors again, Thomas, I can't take it anymore. We've already heard from 15 different specialists. It's not about changing doctors. It's about giving someone different a chance. Thomas told Jennifer about James, omitting the fact that he was homeless and focusing on his experience as a physical therapist. Are you crazy? Jennifer stood up abruptly. Our son is not a guinea pig for experiments. Jennifer, for God's sake, listen to what I'm saying. Matthew smiled yesterday. He smiled. When was the last time you saw our son happy? Jennifer stopped, tears streaming down her face. Since the accident, he's become a shadow of his former self, Thomas continued. And yesterday, talking to this man, he became a child again. But Thomas, what if it goes wrong? What if he hurts him even more? What if it goes right, Jennifer? What if our son walks again? Jennifer sat back in the chair, covering her face with her hands. I can't take any more hope, Thomas. I can't take believing and then being crushed by reality anymore. Thomas knelt beside his wife's chair. Then let me believe for both of us. Let me try. The next day, Thomas looked for James again. I accept your proposal, James, but with conditions. Name them, Doctor. I want you to explain every exercise to me before doing it with Matthew, and I want to be present for all the sessions. I agree completely, Doctor. And another thing, I want to know more about your story. If we are going to trust our son to you, I need to know who I'm dealing with. James took a deep breath. That's fair, Doctor. My story isn't pretty, but it's true. They sat down on a bench in the hospital garden. I was married, Doctor. I had a beautiful daughter, Emma. She would be about your son's age today. Thomas noticed James spoke in the past tense and decided not to ask for details. I worked at Memorial Hospital, like I said. I was good at what I did. Very good. I was proud of my profession. What happened? A colleague of mine was neglecting a patient. A child, Doctor. I couldn't stay silent watching that. I reported him to the administration. You did the right thing. I thought so too, but he had influence, connections. He managed to turn the situation around and accuse me of incompetence. I lost my license, my job, my reputation. And your family. James was silent for a long moment. My wife couldn't handle the social pressure, the shame. She left me and took my daughter to another state. It's been 5 years since I've seen Emma. Thomas felt a tightness in his chest. James, You don't need to say anything, Doctor. I know it sounds like a made-up story. A beggar who was once a respected professional, right? But it's the truth. I believe you. Why? Because anyone who went through what you went through and still offers to help a stranger's child without asking for anything in return, that person has a good heart. James smiled and Thomas saw tears in his eyes. Thank you, Doctor. You won't regret it. One last question, James. Why do you want to help my son? Because when I look at Matthew, I see my Emma, and I think that if she were in the same situation, I would want someone to try to help. That afternoon, James began the first session with Matthew. Thomas watched carefully as the former physical therapist explained each movement. Let's start slowly, Matthew. First, I'm going to massage your legs to improve the circulation. Will it hurt? The boy asked. Nothing you can't handle, champ. And Mr. James brought more passion fruit juice for you. Matthew smiled and took a sip of the yellow liquid. It's sweeter today. That's because the fruits were just right, James explained, starting the massage. Thomas watched every movement. James really knew what he was doing. His hands were experienced. They knew anatomy. Now, Matthew, I want you to try to concentrate on my hands. Try to feel where I'm touching. It's hard, the boy murmured, closing his eyes. Don't force it, son. Just try to notice. After a few minutes of massage, James began passive exercises, moving Matthew's legs in different directions. Do you feel anything? James asked. That tingling again, Matthew replied, excited. Thomas felt his heart speed up. Could it be possible? After an hour of exercises, James ended the session. How do you feel, Matthew? Tired, but good. My legs feel, I don't know, different. Different how? Like they're waking up from a very long sleep. James and Thomas exchanged a meaningful look. Doctor, James said when they were alone, what your son is feeling is a very positive sign. Are you sure? I can't promise anything, but I've seen this kind of response before. Matthew's nervous system is reacting to the stimuli. How long until we know if he will walk again? A few months, Doctor. We need to be patient. Thomas nodded, feeling for the first time in months something he had forgotten. Hope. The sessions continued daily. Jennifer, initially reluctant, began to participate after seeing the improvement in Matthew's mood. The boy had started smiling again, making jokes, showing interest in the things around him. James, Jennifer said in the third week, I wanted to apologize for having doubted you. There's no need to apologize, Mrs. Jennifer. A mother has to protect her son. It's just that, seeing Matthew like this, happy again. It's been so long. James smiled sadly. I know how it is, Mrs. Jennifer. I know what it's like to see a child suffer. Do you have children, Mr. James? I do, a daughter, but I haven't seen her in a very long time. Jennifer heard the pain in James's voice and decided not to press the matter. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It's a great help to us who are just starting out. Now, continuing, in the 5th week of treatment, something extraordinary happened. During the exercises, Matthew suddenly shouted, James, James, I moved my big toe. Thomas and Jennifer, who were talking nearby, rushed over. What is it, son? Dad, I managed to move my big toe. Look! Everyone watched intently. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the big toe on Matthew's right foot moved. Jennifer covered her mouth with her hands, crying. Thomas was speechless. James smiled but tried to remain calm. Very good, Matthew. Now let's try again, very slowly. The boy concentrated intensely. Again the big toe moved. I did it, Matthew shouted, beaming with happiness. Jennifer hugged her son, crying tears of joy. Thomas shook James's hand firmly. James, how can I ever thank you? There's no need, Doctor. Seeing this joy is payment enough. But the happiness was interrupted by a familiar voice. Dr. Wilson? Thomas turned and saw Dr. Reynolds, the neurologist who had been treating Matthew since the accident. Dr. Reynolds, it's good to see you. I was just about to call you. We have news. Dr. Wilson, I need to speak with you. In private. Thomas noticed the serious tone in the doctor's voice. "Jennifer, stay here with Matthew. I'll be right back." The two doctors stepped away. "Dr. Wilson, I've learned that you are allowing a beggar to treat your son." "Dr. Reynolds, that man is a former physical therapist and—" "A former physical therapist who lost his license for medical negligence," Dr. Reynolds interrupted. "Dr. Wilson, I looked into it. James Miller was responsible for a patient's deterioration 5 years ago. He almost caused permanent paralysis in a child." Thomas felt his world collapse. That can't be true. It is true. And what's more, he was working drunk on the day of the incident. Dr. Wilson, for God's sake, get that man away from your son before it's too late. Thomas looked back and saw James playing with Matthew, who was trying to move his toe again. How could he be so deceived? "Dr. Reynolds, but my son is improving." "Dr. Wilson, what your son is experiencing are involuntary spasms. It's common with spinal cord injuries. It doesn't mean recovery. But the movement is voluntary. Believe me, doctor, I've seen this hundreds of times. It's cruel to create false hope." Thomas returned to his family with his mind in turmoil. How could James be lying when he saw sincerity in his eyes? "Dad, look," Matthew called out. "I managed to move both big toes." Thomas forced a smile, but his mind was troubled. "Very good, son." "James says next week I'll try to move my whole foot." Thomas looked at James, who avoided his gaze. "James, may I speak with you?" "Of course, doctor." They stepped away again. "James, I need to know the truth. Dr. Reynolds told me about the incident that cost you your license." James sighed deeply. "What exactly did he say?" "That you were drunk and nearly caused permanent paralysis in a child." James closed his eyes. "Doctor, I have never drunk a drop of alcohol in my life, and I would never, ever harm a child." "Then explain to me what happened." "The official version says I was drunk. The truth is, I tried to stop a colleague from performing a risky procedure on a child. I ended up being blamed for the outcome." "James, how can I believe that?" "You can't, doctor. It's my word against a system that destroyed me. But look at your son. Look into his eyes. Do you see any evil there?" Thomas looked at Matthew, who was trying to move his feet again, beaming with joy. "Dr. Wilson," James continued, "if you want me to stop, I'll stop. I won't fight, but know that everything I've done here was out of love. Pure love for a child who deserves a chance." Thomas remained silent for several long minutes. "James, I want to believe you, but you have to protect your son. I understand perfectly. Give me 1 more week. 1 week to investigate your story further." "Doctor, 1 week can mean a lot in Matthew's treatment. Every day lost—" "It's what I can offer, James." James nodded sadly. "I accept, doctor." Thomas spent the next few days investigating James's story. He spoke with former colleagues, searched for documents, tried to reconstruct the facts. What he discovered surprised him. Most of James's former colleagues spoke of him with respect. They described a dedicated, competent professional, incapable of harming a child. "Dr. Wilson," said a former nurse who worked with James, "I can guarantee James never drank. He was a practicing evangelical, and the incident that cost him his license, well, there are different versions of the story." "How so?" "Officially, James was negligent. Unofficially, he tried to stop Dr. Richard Baker from performing an experimental procedure without the parents' authorization. Thomas knew Dr. Richard Baker, an influential and arrogant doctor. And what happened? James stopped the procedure, but Dr. Baker managed to convince the board that James was interfering because he was drunk. He brought 2 witnesses who swore they saw James drinking." Witnesses? Residents who depended on Dr. Baker for their careers. Thomas began to understand the picture. James had been the victim of a conspiracy. He decided to do one more investigation. He looked for the family of the child involved in the incident. "Mrs. Rodriguez?" he called on the phone. "Yes, who is this?" "I'm Dr. Thomas Wilson. I'd like to talk about James Miller, the physical therapist who treated your son." There was silence on the other end. "Why do you want to know about James?" "He is helping my son. I need to know if I can trust him. Dr. Wilson, can I come there in person? I think we should talk face to face. The next day, Mrs. Rodriguez appeared at Thomas's office. She was a simple woman, about 50 years old. Dr. Wilson, my son Daniel is 15 now and walks perfectly well. How so? James Miller saved my son, Doctor. Dr. Baker wanted to perform an experimental surgery on Daniel without consulting me. James stopped him and came to me to explain the risks. Thomas was shocked. But James lost his license for negligence. For honesty, Doctor, he could have stayed quiet and let Dr. Baker do what he wanted. But he chose to protect my son. And the accusations of drunkenness? Lies, Doctor. James didn't even drink alcohol. He was very religious. Why didn't you testify in his favor? Carmen lowered her head. Because I'm poor, Doctor, and poor people have no voice against a famous doctor. I tried, but no one listened to me. Thomas felt ashamed of himself and the medical system. Mrs. Rodriguez, may I ask where James is today? How can I find him? I don't know, Doctor. After he lost everything, he disappeared. I heard he became homeless. He helped me find James. Then you are a lucky man, Doctor. James is one of the most honest people I've ever known in my life. Thomas returned to the hospital that afternoon with a much more peaceful mind. He found James exercising Matthew, as always. James, may I speak with you? Of course, Doctor. I looked into your story. James stopped the exercises and looked directly at Thomas. And? I apologize for having doubted you. James smiled sadly. You don't need to apologize, Doctor. It's normal to be suspicious. James, I want you to know that you can continue treating Matthew for as long as necessary. Thank you, Doctor. And more than that, I want to help you get your license back. James's eyes widened. Doctor, that's impossible. I've tried many times. With my influence and with new testimonies, perhaps it won't be so impossible. James sat down heavily, as if a weight had fallen from his shoulders. Dr. Wilson, for 5 years I've only heard that I'm a failure, a liar, a drunk. Sometimes I even doubt myself. James, you are a hero. You sacrificed your career to protect a child. I'm not a hero, Doctor. I only did what was right. And that is exactly what makes someone a hero. Matthew, who had overheard part of the conversation, rolled his wheelchair closer. James, you lost your job because of a child? I lost it for trying to protect a child, Matthew. Like me. Like you. Matthew took James's hand. Then you are my hero. James was moved and hugged the boy. You are my hero, Matthew. You taught me that it's still worth fighting for. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like the video and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a lot as we're just getting started. Now, continuing. In the following weeks, Matthew's progress was remarkable. He managed to move his feet, then his entire legs. Most importantly, he regained his self-confidence. Thomas, keeping his promise, mobilized all his contacts to help James get his license back. Mrs. Rodriguez and other patients of James gave testimonies. The truth finally began to come out. Dr. Richard Baker, pressured by the new evidence, ended up confessing that he had fabricated the accusations against James. He was suspended from the medical board. James, Thomas said one morning, I have news for you. Tell me, doctor. Your license has been restored. You can officially work as a physical therapist again. James was silent for a moment, then broke down in tears. Doctor, I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything. And more than that, I'm offering you a position here at the hospital. If you accept, of course. Doctor, it would be an honor. But the biggest thrill was yet to come. 2 months later, during a physical therapy session, Matthew managed to take his first steps supported by parallel bars. Dad, Mom, look, I'm walking! Jennifer and Thomas ran to see. There was their son, taking shaky but determined steps. James, I have no words, said Thomas, moved. The credit belongs entirely to Matthew, Doctor. He never gave up. And yours too, James. Without your dedication... Doctor, can I tell you something? Of course. When I started treating Matthew, I was thinking of giving up on everything. I thought my life had no more meaning. And now? Now I know that everything I went through was worth it to get here, to help your son. Matthew, hearing the conversation, wobbled closer. James, you taught me how to walk again. And you taught me that miracles exist, Matthew. You know what else I really liked? What? The passion fruit juice. It was really tasty. Everyone laughed. Matthew, said James, can I tell you a secret? You can. The juice wasn't special at all. It was just passion fruit with water and sugar. I knew it, said Matthew, smiling. But I pretended it was magic because I saw that it made you happy. James was moved again. You are a very wise boy, Matthew. I learned from you that sometimes we need to believe in magic to find strength. 6 months later, Matthew was walking normally. James had become the head physical therapist of the hospital. Thomas and Jennifer started a social project to help homeless people who were healthcare professionals. But the biggest surprise came on a Saturday afternoon. James was at the hospital when a nurse called him. James, there's a young lady at the front desk asking for you. James went down and found a girl about 15 years old, with the same eyes as his. Emma, he whispered, not believing it. Hi, Dad. James hugged her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. How did you find me? I saw a news report on television about you and the boy who started walking again. I recognized your name and your picture. Does your mother know you're here? She does. She said she was wrong to keep me away from you. She apologized. James cried like he hadn't cried in years. Emma, my daughter. Dad is so sorry for everything. Dad, I understand now. You were always a hero. It just took me a while to see it. Thomas, who had come down to see what was happening, witnessed the reunion from a distance. He smiled, remembering James's words, miracles do exist. Matthew came running down the hallway. James! James! Guess what? I'm going back to school on Monday. James turned around, still holding Emma. Matthew, I want you to meet someone very special. This is my daughter, Emma. Hi, Emma. Your dad is the best physical therapist in the world. I know, smiled Emma, and you must be the bravest boy in the world. Why? Because you never gave up believing. That afternoon, in the hospital garden, 5 very special people were drinking passion fruit juice. Thomas, Jennifer, Matthew, James, and Emma. The yellow liquid tasted the same as always, but to all of them, it tasted like a new beginning, like a second chance, like family. Dad, said Matthew, can I ask you a question? Of course, son. If you were to tell our story to someone, how would it end? Thomas looked around, seeing the people he loved gathered together, all facing their fears and overcoming them. It would end by saying that sometimes the best medicines don't come from pharmacies, son. They come from the hearts of people who care. And the passion fruit juice. The juice was just the excuse, smiled Thomas. The real medicine was friendship. Matthew nodded, satisfied with the answer. James, the boy called. Yes, Matthew. Thank you for teaching me that nothing is impossible when you have love. James smiled, hugging the child who had changed his life. Thank you, Matthew, for teaching me that it's worth believing in miracles. And there, under the New York City afternoon sun, a family that destiny had brought together was celebrating not just the healing of a boy, but the healing of dreams that seemed lost forever. Jennifer held Thomas's hand. You know what I learned from all this? What? That sometimes God puts angels in our lives disguised as beggars. Thomas nodded, watching James play with Matthew and Emma. And that the real miracle wasn't our son starting to walk again. What was it then? It was an entire family learning to believe in love again. The sun set slowly over New York City, and in that hospital garden, 5 hearts beat in sync, united by the proof that life always holds second chances for those who have the courage to believe. End of story. Now tell me, do you believe that love can be the most powerful medicine of all? Leave your comment sharing a story of overcoming that touched you. If you like this story, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories that will make you believe in the strength of the human heart.